Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome to another edition of Uncover California. Okay, guys, we have a few things we have to talk about before we get to our first guest. First of which is Devin Archer was supposed to be here today. However, per his attorney's advice, he needs to wait till after his court case. The good news about that is he will be able to talk more freely about almost having to take the fall for the Biden family. So stay tuned for that. It will be after November 8th. Secondly, I really want you guys to pray for the people of Florida and the people of North Carolina. What's going on down there is just absolutely insane. And we're watching citizens step in and be blocked by this administration. This administration has once again failed the American people. The fact that we've got all these people applying to FEMA for $750 after they have lost everything and lives are just lost and people are lost. They haven't been found. And at the same time, giving billions of dollars to Lebanon, giving billions of dollars to these foreign wars. And think back to Maui. What did these people get? They got about $750. So shame on the Biden-Harris administration, Trump 2024. Thirdly, we have an election coming up, and I don't know how these storms are going to affect what is going to happen in this election. I really hope that the people of these states are able to vote. I went out canvassing my neighborhood and another neighborhood next to mine for low propensity voters last week. And what I found was extremely concerning. First of all, these are voters that haven't voted in the last two elections. And what I found while I was canvassing is most of these people did vote. And guess what? They voted by mail and their votes never got there. So I am going to plead with you, vote early so we can chase the vote of those that have not voted. But secondly, do not put your ballot in the mailbox. Do not put your ballot in the mailbox. Go to a drop box if you want to go to the county or the city. I would not put them in any ballots on the street. And if you can, vote in person early. We need you to vote early, but by all means, do not trust this mailing system. There is no chain of custody. So today, instead, we are going to go ahead and we are going to focus on some very crucial races in our local district. We have Mike Koslow, congressional candidate for District 26, which is basically the Conejo Valley down to Oxnard. And it's a district that we could flip if you guys all stay away from the mass mail-in voting and get those people that haven't voted out to vote. And we also have after him a school board candidate, Dirk, who's running for school district in Camarillo. So stay tuned for a word from our sponsor and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is James from Roughneck Roast. I'm a lover of coffee, country, and Christ. Like many of you, I'm fearful about the future of America if we don't elect President Trump back in office. That's why when you order coffee from roughneckroasts.com, I donate 20% of all sales to the Trump 2024 campaign so we can fight to make America great again. As a thank you for your support, I'm happy to offer you a discount on coffee orders during this all-important presidential campaign. Get 15% off your coffee order today by using the code CALI, C-A-L-I, at roughneckroasts.com. That's C-A-L-I at roughneckroasts.com. Join the Roughneck Revolution one sip at a time with my proudly American roasted coffees. Together, let's put America's greatest president back in the White House and take back our country. That code again is CALI, C-A-L-I, for 15% off your coffee order at roughneckroasts.com. Thank you, and God bless.
I'm really excited to have somebody that I consider a friend on the show today. And he has been working super hard for this congressional seat. You guys, it's so important that we lose some of these woke Democrats that only care about gender theory and DEI. And we put people in office that are going to put you, the American people, first. My next guest is running for Congress in District 26. And I want to welcome to the show Mike Koslow. Welcome to Uncover California again. It's great to have you back.
Good to see you again, and thanks for having me on again, Lori.
How's the campaign going?
It's going like gangbusters right now. We're moving at lightning speed and just have so much going on in almost every sector, so it's going incredibly well.
Yeah, well, tell everybody a little bit about your background again in case they missed a previous episode and what you want to do to change the politics that we have going on in our nation right now.
Again, thank you. Again, Michael Koslow running for Congressional District 26. And
tell people where that is. Which cities?
It goes from everything from Calabasas all the way over to Ventura, minus the downtown area, the Channel Islands, Port Hueneme, Oxnard, as you pointed out, and even up to Santa Paula and Fillmore. So it covers quite a bit. And Simi Valley, I might add, is a big component.
Well, you'll win Simi. I have no doubt you'll win. Simi's easy because we are red as red gets. I won 70% of the vote in Simi when I ran. So I'm confident you will focus on those other areas, and we're going to be tackling the low propensity voters to get them out for you.
I appreciate that. No,
Yeah.
Everybody's been phenomenal and very, very forthcoming as it relates to, as you pointed out, there's a lot of problems with the voting right now. And matter of fact, I'll share this with you. My own son, for the last 8 years, has been residing in upstate New York. Yet he still continues to get a ballot here in this county. So we're not seeing the voter rolls being changed. But just a little bit about myself. 31 years as a federal law enforcement agent. Started with the Air Force, went to the Department of Defense Inspector General, and then worked with the FBI for almost 8 years. And concurrently, also started out as an E1, working on B-52 bombers and F-4s as an avionics technician, and then worked all my way all the way up to working on the general officer staff as the California State Command Chief for the California Air National Guard. So a lot of experience. I'm a business owner for about 9 years now, and also sit on the National Small Business Association Leadership Council back in Washington advocating for small businesses. So a lot going on.
That's great. And you also just got your doctorate.
I did. About 4.5 months ago, my doctorate in education. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be very proud of yourself. I don't know how you run for office, do everything that you do, and get your doctorate at the same time. It's to be applauded. It shows me that you're quite capable to handle Washington, D.C. So let's talk really quick about these hurricanes. What do you think of the response and everything that's going on?
Horrendous. It really demonstrates the fact that our cabinet level organizations, as you know, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is part of the Department of Homeland Security. That being said, in the past, FEMA has always been relatively responsive, has come over to be able to help the different communities. And that's what they were initiated and instituted for, going back actually under the constitutional amendment in 1803, I believe it was, to where there was fires in New Hampshire and it devastated that community. And Congress actually supported and provided funding for that to be able to help them out. And then there wasn't a real big move until right after Katrina. That President Bush signed into law in 2006, which allowed an extension of the money that was being provided at that time. To make a long story short, FEMA has not lived up to its expectations and its funding obligations. And as a matter of fact, as we all know, we just found out recently that $1 billion, a little bit more than that actually, was diverted, in my opinion, over to illegal immigrants in support. And that's not even helping the American people. If you talked about earlier about Lahaina and Maui. And then we also talk about East Palestine. We don't bring that up either, as far as they receive $750. That's
Is that
ridiculous.
what they got, too?
They got about $750 from what I understood.
So America last under this administration.
Unquestionably, yes. Unquestionably. And we see all this funding for emergency care, and that's what it was developed for FEMA, was to be able to help in what they call or refer to as consequence management, is to be able to help in the time of devastating impact, whether it's natural or man-made. And that's not being used to those purposes right now. And the American people are the ones that are suffering as a result of that.
100%. Now, another thing that's concerning, too, and we've seen it in California, is we're watching a mass exodus of our insurance companies. And it concerns me because I see the same thing happening over there. You know, this illegal immigration I had last week, I had a guy named Anthony Rubin on who's actually located some of the 325,000 missing migrant kids. And one of these little boys, 10 years old, is working the streets of New York City selling water bottles from 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and he wants to go home. He was trafficked here. He wants to go home to his family, and our government is preventing it. A lot of these kids are owing $10,000 to $15,000 to the cartels in threat of their families at home being hurt. The epic failure of the border czar Harris is just absolutely devastating. And again, we've got these hurricanes and money being diverted to foreign wars and housing illegal immigrants. What could you do in Congress to try to change all of this?
Well, what needs to happen very clearly is that, one, we need to be able to go ahead and ensure that the borders are secure. That's first and foremost.
It's treason.
It is treason. In my personal opinion, is letting in 6 to 10 million individuals into this country where the individual communities have to bear the cost of education, of medical, and as far as in food. All those costs are borne by the American people and the taxpayer. What I can do in Congress is sit on the right committees and the subcommittees to be able to go ahead and ensure that there's significant accountabilities for ensuring that the people that are trafficking receive more stringent laws, more stringent consequences, and are jailed and placed and incarcerated for those actions. There's unquestionably that we need to take affirmative steps to be able to make sure that these people are no longer trafficking these young people and these minors into our country. We've become a trafficking organization, a legal organization as far as I'm concerned, in this country in permitting this kind of atrocious and horrendous behavior.
Right. The Harris, and I'm going to just say it, the Harris administration, because I don't think Biden's been ever running the country, or should I say the Harris puppet of the New World Order. It's interesting because they entered us into what's called the Global Compact of Migration through the UN. And, you know, I've been debating a lot of Democrats on a show called Jubilee Middle Ground. And these people are consistently bringing up the Senate bill that was blocked. And I have to remind them, even Bernie Sanders didn't vote for the Senate bill. However, Congress did pass H.R. 2, which has been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk since May of 2023. I've talked to Oscar Blue, who's been through the Darien Gap 5 times. There is billions being made on human suffering right now, and it's caused by our government. And, you know, the Senate bill wanted to give billions of dollars to these NGOs to keep people coming through this funnel of nonstop chain. I believe even now there's another caravan of migrants of 3,000 people coming to our border. One thing concerning to me is the latest statistics from ICE, where we have a lot of special interest aliens in our country from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Somalia, just from, you know, you can't vet who these people are because they drop their ID on the other side of the border. And then to top that off, we have 450,000 known criminal aliens in our country. And we've got, I believe it was 13,099 convicted murderers in our country and 15,000 convicted rapists running our streets. If we don't win this election, I don't think we're going to be able to vote our way out of this. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Donald Trump had it right when he said, remember, right before the last election, he said that we were not letting in their best. And that clearly has come to fruition. And we've seen that. We knew this 4.5 years ago, that if, in fact, the Biden administration was to succeed and get in office, and they did get in office, and there's a question about that, clearly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we see that these individuals have amassed and come to this country. Other countries, Venezuela and many others, have allowed their prisons to be vacated, and those individuals, as long as they come to the United States, have been permitted to leave. They're here now. We know they're here. Look what's happening in the adversity that our American public is dealing with right now. The murders, as you pointed out, that are happening in this country. And we're not taking any advantage. Matter of fact, ICE is not allowed. We don't have a detainer on these individuals in local police departments because in California, they're not allowed to go ahead and detain them for ICE for the purposes of deportation or other types of action, whether it may be criminal prosecution. All that being said, we're not taking the appropriate steps in this country, and more so in California and in our District 26, to be able to go ahead and ensure that we extend public safety as people expect us to be able to provide that degree of safety, that umbrella of safety to our personnel. So it's a horrendous, once again, it demonstrates that the Biden administration and those cabinet level personnel, namely those that within the Department of Justice and others, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Transportation, Buttigieg, yes, Buttigieg, have clearly not done those things that they are required to do to ensure this public safety is maintained and retained in this country.
Well, not only that, they did start the CBP One app, where the migrants no longer even have to cross our border. So their numbers are coming down, but they're flying people in on our tax dollars. And again, this is money that could be going to hurricane victims. How has Julia Brownlee voted on all of these issues?
Interesting you bring that up. The last several votes that have pertained to these particular areas that we just talked about have been abstentions.
So she's a Jackie Irwin.
Yes.
A no-show.
Yes, and she's voted about 95% of the time with the administration on those issues that adversely impact the public. So yes, she has not voted in the interest of the American people, in my opinion.
And yet she lies about what she's voting for, that, oh, I support this, I support that. It's an election year. And that's one thing that I think is interesting is they don't care about these issues until it's an election year. It's kind of like in 2022 where, and this is state, I know you're running federal, but Jackie Irwin, missed 2 votes on the gas tax. Then she voted to raise the gas tax. Then she put a special committee together to find out why gas prices were high. And immediately after the election, she voted to raise them again. And I believe she just voted to raise them again. Vote for Ted Nordblum for state assembly, guys. But it just seems to be a game with these people. And what concerns me, even with Kamala Harris, it's the first time in American history I can remember where we have a nominee who never got 1 vote of the people. They installed her as the nominee.
As a matter of fact, 1% in the primaries when she was running?
Yeah, she dropped out before Iowa. So it's absolute insanity to me. I want to ask you something, and I have no knowledge on this, so I'm not going to pretend one way or the other. And I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat for a second, so I hope you forgive that. I've been hearing a lot about HAARP. Do you have any knowledge of HAARP? Do they have the capability to alter our weather?
No.
Okay. I just wanted to know because I hear a lot about that. And again, watching these storms come up in reverse from the Gulf is kind of awkward. I did research it a little bit. And I did see in the 1900s, there was a storm that came across the Gulf like this, like these past 2 hurricanes, or the coming hurricane and the one that just hit. And that one killed 9,000 people. So I know that it's happened before. I'm hearing a lot of chatter online, and I have no knowledge of HAARP. So I didn't know with your military background if you knew anything.
No, not in that area.
Okay, well, that's okay. Just, I have to ask. As far as these foreign wars that are going on right now, we're dumping a lot of money into Ukraine. And I'm sorry, I think there's a lot of money laundering going on in Ukraine. I think there always has been. And to realign our energy and who's making money on the energy. It doesn't seem that the Democrats want a ceasefire in Ukraine, yet they want a ceasefire in Israel while missiles are being shot in. What are your thoughts on that, especially after the anniversary of October 7th?
Good question, Lori. Two things come to my mind. First and foremost, as far as Ukraine is concerned, as you probably know, we've talked about this before. When I was with the California Air National Guard, one of my duties was to go over with a contingent of individuals and represent this country in Ukraine, speaking with their senior leadership to go ahead and transition them from a contingent force over to a full-time professional military force. We used to call them conscripts, and that's what we saw in Russia. So we did successfully transition them. But to answer your question as it relates to all about the funding, yes, it was a big problem. And I discussed this with my friends back at the Department of Defense Inspector General's office where I came from many, many years ago, and asked the same question. With all of the indications that they have of fraudulent activities and money laundering and grift and bribery and such, graft and bribery, I think a lot of issues had been identified, and one of the questions that I posed to those individuals at the time was, we've had an inspector general in Iraq, we've had an inspector general in Afghanistan. Why did we not have one in Ukraine to ensure fiscal responsibility for the funding, the taxpayer money that was being sent over there and was being utilized as it was afforded to them for weapon systems and other types of humanitarian support programs? That all being said, I just received notification, matter of fact, speaking with a friend of mine last week, that in fact we do have an inspector general presence in Ukraine now to ensure that we do have fiscal responsibility. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources to be ensure that that is retained and that we maintain that. But that is a big component right now that we have. As it relates to providing systems over there, I think the Biden administration clearly does not want to have a definitive end to this war. Traditionally, what we've done was that we've worked together with the Ukrainian government to be able to provide them the necessary resources to have a definitive closure and strategy to be able to have that end of the war. The Russians, we know, are suffering both resources and in manpower. Their capabilities and their technical competencies are not what we thought that they would be. So they are not insurmountable. So we can win the war, or I should say the Ukrainians can win the war in their environment if the right administration and the right resources and the right Pentagon emphasis is placed there. As it relates to Israel, you're absolutely right. Thank goodness they have the dome.
Right.
The dome. And that takes American know-how and American resources and weapon systems to be able to perpetuate that. As you know, with that, this particular administration was withholding 1,000-pound specialized bombs, which could have assisted them. Now, granted, nobody wants death. War is, as they say, ugly. And but, you know, Israel did not bring this on themselves.
No.
This was caused, as we know, back on October 7th last year. So that being said, Israel has remained peaceful, and we didn't have any wars, as we know, and any hostilities to speak of, major hostilities, under the Trump administration. That's not the case anymore. And this administration, as we see with the lack of response down and even in the hurricane zones with the last hurricane, it's atrocious. And now I believe now that the reason why is because the funding is not there, because they've diverted it to other humanitarian issues that they claim that need to help the illegal immigrants coming to this country.
Well, and one thing I think is extremely dangerous is I'm hearing that they are giving munitions that are actually shooting into Russia, which actually pulls us into the war. And myself having a Marine as a son, I don't want him fighting a foreign war. I don't want to be in another 20-year war. I don't like the way we pulled out of Afghanistan. Of course, I believe there's still Americans left behind. But again, we've got these major disasters happening here at home, yet we seem to be funneling billions and billions and billions of dollars at these foreign wars. And I don't think it's really our fight. I do think that we need to support Israel. They are our ally. And I find it very interesting to see these protesters, and you have people like Queers for Palestine. Go spend a week over there. You're probably going to get thrown off a building or beheaded or stoned to death. The irony and the hypocrisy and just everything that we're seeing is so scary. Yesterday in New York, we had all these protesters for Hamas in New York City. And to think they took down our World Trade Centers there. I will never forget the images of people jumping out of that building, people being above the fire line going, there's no way they're getting out of those buildings alive. Those buildings were massive. And yet we seem to have a new generation of people that don't remember seeing people burned alive in cages by ISIS. They don't remember reporters like Foley, who was beheaded on live TV. They don't remember 9/11 because they didn't witness it. And the indoctrination in our schools right now, we've got a lot of Marxist professors and everything else in this DEI policies where it's race, sexual orientation, or gender beliefs above everything else has seemed to put this country in a lot of danger. You promise me, when you get to Congress, are you going to fight?
Unquestionably, yes. That's my nature. I've demonstrated that in many other careers and many other professions that is my nature, and I will do the same, if not stronger, when I get into Congress.
Okay, so let everybody, our time went super fast, believe it or not. We're already like a half hour. Is there anything people locally here can do to help you, and even throughout the country, if they want to donate to you, if people want to volunteer to walk precincts for you? What do you need to succeed?
Those things that you just mentioned, walking precincts, get the information out, let people know who I am. I mean, we just started a mass blast as far as in text messaging, as far as in emails, as far as in video, as far as in TV spots, radio spots, to be able to go ahead and get the visibility we need. I know I have a lot of signs out there across the district, but what it really comes down to is that we need people to go ahead and open their homes and allow us, because fundraising is a big component of what we do. And we, in order to be able to go ahead and get the word out, we have to go through different types of social media outlets and other media outlets as well. That costs money.
Right.
So anything that anybody can do, whether it's $5, $10, $25, or $1,000, all of that money is put to good use to be able to go ahead and get the word out, so that way people like myself and other like-minded people can get into positions in office to be able to make substantive changes that are going to be the benefit of the American people and the people of the District 26.
Okay, awesome. And where can people find you, and where can people sign up to help in your campaign?
You can go to my website at votemichaelkoslow.com. That's KOSLOW, to be able to go ahead and provide that kind of support, whether it's a donation or just reach out to me to be able to provide any type of volunteer support.
And understand, people, nobody's coming to save you. Everybody's going to have to get involved in this election, because I don't believe we're going to be able to vote our way out of this next time. This, in my opinion, is the most important election of our lifetime. There's no going back after this. These people have gone too far. We cannot handle another 10 million immigrants in our country. We cannot handle the American people being put last. So, Michael, I wish you all the luck in your campaign. I am here to help you. I will have people canvassing for you in our area. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you as always, Lori. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, everybody, stay tuned. We're going to have a little sponsor break. And when we come back, we're going to bring on Dirk, who's running for school board in Camarillo.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back to Uncover California. I am super excited to have my next guest here. I actually will be serving with him soon on our local GOP Central Committee. We both won the last election. I don't know if you know that, but we flipped 98% of the current Central Committee, and he is a warrior. This is actually his third election, and he's running for the Oxnard Union School Board. Dirk Lay, welcome to Uncover California.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So how are you doing?
Well, I'm tired. I've been in campaign mode for 2 years, but it's an invigorating kind of tired. But I am looking forward to November 6th.
Yeah, it's coming.
I think I'm going to sleep for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you ran for city council
In 2022.
and then you ran for oh goodness, my brain.
Our Central Committee?
Our Central Committee
Yes.
for the GOP, and won a seat there.
Right.
And I'm excited to be working with you to get candidates elected. But you're also running now for the Oxnard Union School Board. Tell me about that.
Well, I took the election in March very seriously, and I wanted my role to be able to recruit good candidates and support them, because I thought that was the major shortcoming of the old Central Committee, the existing Central Committee, is that they didn't compete in every election, and I think that's important. So I was really looking forward to being a helper. And then there was one district that represents Camarillo, where I live, in the Oxnard Union High School District, and we didn't have a candidate. And I looked at that school board, and there's no diversity of opinion at all. They're all education, administrator, professionals.
Bureaucrats,
Not teachers. I love teachers. Let me be crystal clear. I love teachers. But the administrators are getting in the way. And I'm thinking, that board, nothing's going to change. For example, 15% of graduates are math proficient. Only 43% are English language proficient. And then in a related topic, people say, our kids can't afford to live here. Well, with that skill set, who's going to offer them a big job with a big salary? So we're failing these children. We're absolutely failing these children. And putting one more person on that board that's exactly like the four that are there is not a recipe for change.
No, it sounds a lot like our state assembly and Senate, where they don't even have to talk to Republicans and they just push any woke policy they want through. Something that we've been seeing a lot too in our schools is this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, to me, which is reverse racism. I
agree.
think there's so much focus on identity politics. We aren't getting to math. We aren't getting to science. And something that I would like to see back in schools are your classes like we used to have when I was a kid, like your home ec, where you have auto shop or you have trades that you can intern in. What are your thoughts about that?
I think trades are the future.
Right.
Because I've never met someone who's making a lot of money as a tradesman who's complaining about his student debt, because they don't have it.
Right.
Right. So if my children, my grandchildren, I'm going to push them into the trades, because that's the way to make a lot of money without a lot of debt. Plus, it's a constructive thing to do. You're
Right.
actually doing something, right? Something that you can see. I think it's neat to be able to see the fruits of your labor, and nobody does that like the trades.
That's true. And it seems like a lot of the kids today just think that they're going to become a TikTok star and that's going to take care of them forever. We don't build anything anymore. You know, California is tough because of our Democrat leadership, where we're the highest tax state in the country. And I mean, even now, a two-bedroom apartment in our area is about $3,000. So, I mean, you can make $150,000 a year and still struggle to make a living here. So you guys, you got to change the state assembly and state senator. It's never changing. And get rid of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Well, Joe's gone. He's never been there.
He was never there.
He was never there to begin with. You know, isn't it interesting, too, how they lied about him? Oh, he's mentally sound. Oh, the economy's good. Our border is secure. And now it's an election year, and now they're going to fix it. I know you're running for school board, but I love your take on that.
Well, Joe Biden has always been a knucklehead as a young man, right? So you take a guy who's not is about as sharp as a marble. Let's put it that way. And then he gets old. There's nothing wrong with getting old. I'm getting old. We're all gonna get old if we
I'm getting old.
Well, yeah,
It sucks.
But when you take a guy who's not very smart to begin with, and then he gets older and he has obviously some dementia.
Yeah.
Then we worry about who's running the country.
Who is running the country?
Because we know it's not Kamala because she won't take responsibility for anything. We know it's not Joe because he's a knucklehead, right? So there's like the staff is running things. It's kind of like when FDR was sick. Or I think Woodrow Wilson also was sick for a while, maybe a year, and nobody said anything, and his staff just kept the ball rolling with those two people in the wrong direction, in my humble opinion. But I think that the reason I'm running for school board is that there's at least two stakeholders that are completely ignored. One is the taxpayers who are paying for the damn thing, right? There's a Measure E for $285 million more.
Get in depth on that because people may not know what that is.
Measure E is a bond issue that would raise potentially $285 million. Their budget already is about $300 million. So they want to double it. And at the same time, they're complaining about shrinking enrollment. So shrinking enrollment sounds to me to be a good thing because they talked about class size as being an issue before, right? So Measure E will raise, they say, it's not a tax. Well, it's going to be a tax on property owners because that's how these bonds work. So we need to say no on Measure E. You have enough money. Do something smarter with your money. So taxpayers need to be respected, right, as anybody who pays the bill. The second one is parents. Senate Bill 1955 passed that says if your boy goes to school and for whatever reason decides that he's not a boy, he's a girl, right? The school
mental illness.
Well, it is a mental illness, and until recently it was characterized that way. It's just not reality, right? The school will refuse to tell the parent. Now, to me, there's nothing more evil in this world than knowing that a child is struggling and withholding that information from the parent. That is evil incarnate.
Well, it is because you can't help the child.
Right.
I can say when I was 12, 13 years old, I was a tomboy. I dressed like a boy. I was so skinny because kids at that age are awkward. And
it's
I was
very awkward age.
Yeah, I could run around the shower, and barely get wet. I looked like olive oil. And it's so sad because, in our generation, there's always fads and trends when you're growing up. And one thing I see in the schools is we had that critical race theory. And during COVID, the parents found out about it. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden they changed the name to DEI. But what's happening now, I think a lot of these kids, just to fit in, it's almost cool now to change your gender.
You're absolutely correct.
And the thing that's scary about that is we have these doctors, which in my opinion should lose their licenses and go to jail, that are giving them hormone blockers in order to change their chemistry. And they don't even give these drugs to prisoners because they say it's cruel punishment because it castrates them. And they are giving children surgeries, breast removals. It is just absolutely nuts. And I would like to see some people stand up and say, no, let's deal with the real issues here. Kids will grow out of this. If they're meant to change their gender down the road, they have every right to do that after 18.
As an adult.
After 18, I'd say even after 21, your brain doesn't even develop till you're like 25.
Right.
But what we're seeing is, to me, it's an emergency. It's a national emergency. It's child abuse. A lot of the materials that we're seeing in school, and let's get it straight, it's not book banning when you take age inappropriate materials out of a school.
That's pornography.
Exactly.
I've seen some of this stuff, and it has like cartoon characters
giving oral sex
in sexual positions.
Yes.
It's like, what kind of demented person attempts to sexualize children?
Right.
I mean, I'm not interested in anybody's sex life, but particularly not of children.
Right.
I mean, you teach them as parents, what they need to know about their sexual identity and about how all that works. But the teachers are taking on them, not the teachers, the schools.
The curriculum with the unions.
They're taking on things that are none of their business.
Right.
Now, if everybody was math proficient, everybody was English language proficient, you would have time maybe for some other things if the parents thought that that was what they wanted their kids to hear.
Right.
But the parents are being ignored, the taxpayers are being ignored, the students are being shortchanged, and the teachers are spending time with administrative burdens when all they want to do is teach. I've been an instructor. I was an instructor pilot in the Navy.
Thank you for your service.
I love it. It was the best. I made two good decisions in my life. I married my wife, and I joined the Navy. And everything that's good in my life has come from those two decisions. But I also taught range safety. We would take people who didn't know which end of the gun was the pointy end, and we would spend half a day with them, and they would leave there with a marksman medal.
Right.
So I understand the value of teaching people things that we know. So anytime I ever criticize the school board or the administrators, make me perfectly clear. I am not criticizing teachers. I love teachers. I remember I had a teacher named Mr. O'Toole that would call us tomatoes. That was his euphemism for, something worse. But that guy walked up to me one time after class and he said, "Lay, why do you act stupid? You're not stupid." Well, because I had peer pressure.
Right. Which we're seeing now.
High school is a very difficult place to navigate. And I think there are groups and there are interests that are encouraging these children to be transgender. And
it's a $1 billion business.
It's an evil business. And the other thing is, there were parents that were described by, and this is one of the things I'm ashamed of as an American, is that our DOJ and our FBI have been so weaponized against conservatives that when parents complained about CRT and DEI and the transgender agenda, and they were labeled as domestic terrorists.
Yeah.
Not Al-Qaeda, not Hamas, not Hezbollah, parents.
Yes.
I mean, at some point you got to go, this is madness.
Yes.
And I'm at that point. I'll be the only person on that board, if I'm elected, that A, doesn't have a financial interest and go along to get along.
Which is needed.
Which is needed. The other thing, I'm just going to ask questions going, why are we doing that? Why is this group providing this service? And you need one person. I'm old enough to realize that diversity was first sold as a competitive advantage. It had absolutely nothing to do with social justice, race, or gender. It was the problem of groupthink.
Right.
That if a group of people all thought the same thing, they might miss something. They might miss a threat or an opportunity, a weakness or a strength. Now it's diversity of the way they look. But look at this board. There's at least 4 women who are going to be on that board, right?
Is there anybody else running against them?
No, only me.
Okay.
If I'm elected, I'll be the only man on the board. Now, I love women. I particularly love Republican women. I've been married to one for 39 years. But that's not diversity.
Right.
When my kids were going to high school in Simi Valley, I attended a parent introduction meeting or whatever, and all the principals, they had 8. They had a principal and they had 7 vice principals. 1 man out of 8. Now, where is the role model for the boys in that school, right?
Right.
There's a difference of opinion, and as a straight, white, conservative man whose parents are from the South, I am the diversity piñata, I'll be the only guy in there that thinks differently. I'll be the only guy in there advocating for the parents. That's my number one priority, because the parents and the students are what matters, and the taxpayer and the teachers.
And they don't want that.
No, they want control.
Let's make it real clear. They really don't want diversity. What they want is conformity.
Right.
Which is dangerous, and we're seeing that a lot. If you don't conform to what the government wills, well, guess what? They're going to label you a domestic terrorist. And we look at what's happening to J6ers right now.
Don't get me started on J6ers.
Yeah, well, I've interviewed quite a few of them, and I can tell you flat out, it is not justice. One guy that is supposed to come on the show a few times, he has been in jail for 3.5 years without trial in violation of Article 6 of our Constitution, and he has spent over 842 days in solitary confinement.
We treat the people in Gitmo better than that, and those people are terrorists.
Yes.
So these J6er guys, I always ask people who complain about J6, and they talk about just the worst day ever. And I said, well, 9/11 was kind of a bad day. Pearl Harbor was kind of a bad day. We've had lots of bad days.
Well, there was a time where they actually did burn down the Capitol.
Well, exactly. And
my
the War of 1812, the British did it.
Right. And my argument to all of that is this. You're talking about the biggest proponents of the Second Amendment. If they wanted to take that Capitol, guess what? They would have been armed.
They would have done it.
And they would have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I always say...
I think they were sucked into a trap.
They were.
Because they don't want them to vote, because these people are now felons and they can't vote.
It was a trap to make us look bad. But when people say, the J6 was so bad, I said, well, how about the BLM Antifa riots that went on for months in dozens of cities where people died?
Yes.
The only person that died on January 6th...
There were 4.
There was one protester was shot in the face.
Ashley Babbitt.
Right. And then
Roseanne
there were 3...
Boylan was beaten to death.
Yeah.
Yep. Beaten to death. I've seen the video. She was hit over and over while she was unconscious.
Now, these are not, again, the only time the Democrats ever support the police, the only time I've ever remembered them supporting the police was the Capitol Police when they were in conflict with Trump people who were upset about what was going on. Well, who wouldn't be upset with what was going on?
Right.
How much, I truly believe when I went to bed in 2020 on Election Day, Trump was ahead by about the same margin as in 2016. And every day, ballots appeared. And they appeared. And they appeared. And apparently it was, 100,000, 200,000 votes in 4 or 5 states. All of a sudden swung. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you know what the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is?
Well, we're batting about 99% right now.
About 6 months.
Yeah.
We know that the mask didn't work. The other thing about the school board, the coward...
Yeah, we should probably talk about the school board.
Yeah.
We could talk about all sorts of things, huh?
The cowardly response to COVID.
Yes.
Right?
Our county's cowardly response to COVID.
Our state, our county, our schools.
Yep.
In-person learning is the best way to do it because there's an interaction. I remember that from being in college. Some of the things I learned were the side conversations I had with my professors or other students. In person is where it's at. We're trying to teach kids particularly. I mean, I do Zoom and Google meetings all the time in my work life.
It's easy to walk away for a little bit and come back.
It's hard enough for adults. Yeah. Can you imagine teenagers trying to learn this way? So that was cowardly.
Well, and the depression that they suffered.
Yeah.
How many suicides, they've missed graduations, how many people died alone in nursing homes, in elderly homes. That was a crime against humanity.
My son's father-in-law died of prostate cancer.
So sorry.
He's a wonderful man. His treatment was delayed for 4 months to make sure that they had enough beds for COVID people. Now, I'm 65 years old, right? When COVID hit, I was 61.
God, I thought you were like 25.
Like 105. I got COVID, and it was the worst cold I ever had. Certainly wasn't something to shut down the economy, suspend people's civil liberties, and put kids another year behind when they're already kind of behind.
And 2 years in California.
2 years.
From
a bad position to begin with.
I think it was election interference once again. We just see it over and over and over again. Did you notice the day that Biden got in office, all the media took the death tickers down?
Oh, yeah.
You know, but it was definitely election interference to the highest degree. I mean, that was death by 1,000 cuts.
Several states.
We were censored. I mean,
Yeah.
just everything. It was just the most authoritarian actions by our invisible fourth branch of government that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And again, why this election is so important. So let me ask you about something else, because we should get back to schools, because I think you and I could talk about other subjects all day long.
But you know, I don't mind them because these things are related to the problems that the schools have. But
Correct.
Go ahead and ask your question.
The unions are going to hate you.
They already do.
They're going to come after you
Bring
if they
it.
haven't already.
Bring it. I'll tell you what. My opponent was
Tell me about your opponent.
Well, all I know about her was that she was endorsed by every existing board member and both unions. One of them is primarily teachers and one of them is primarily staff, right? That happened in April or May. Guess who never got an opportunity to seek their endorsement? This guy.
Right.
So
well,
the
I
fix
ran
is
into
in.
the same thing. Yeah.
The fix is in. So this is a hand-picked candidate who will change nothing.
Right.
If you remember nothing other than that, this is a hand-picked candidate by the existing board and both unions that will change nothing. The 15% math proficiency is going to stay about 15%. Because if you don't change anything, I'm saying focus on marketable skills so that these kids can afford to live here in Ventura County. Because right now they're not getting them, not enough of them.
Oh, and they're struggling.
Struggling.
My daughter is a single mother. Every month is like horrendous for her.
Yeah.
She's paying $3,000 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. It's just absolutely insane. And I've looked around. There's nothing really cheaper. And she needs that 2-bedroom.
That's why you have lots of people living, several generations living together.
Yes.
You have different families, completely unrelated, living together.
That's
because
not
that's
the
how,
California dream. That
it's not the dream, but
it's
that's
not
the reality.
dream. Right.
Yeah.
And even then it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
So how can people help you with your campaign? Because our 30 minutes went super fast.
It did.
Because we're having fun.
We always have fun. All I want people to do, now, everyone who runs for office is different.
Oh, before we get to how to help you, because I have to ask you this. Oxnard Union, you've got a very high population of Hispanic kids. And most of these Hispanic parents and families are very conservative, really. Do they recognize this gender crap that's being pushed on their kids, or are they just oblivious to the fact?
I don't think they know about it because the current board is covering it up.
Okay.
But I will make you one promise. I'm going to learn about all the Brown Act regulations. I'm going to add all the ways all the landmines that I could potentially step on. I'm going to learn to navigate all that, and I'm going to tell you the truth about what's going on because that's going to be my role on this board. As far as how you can help me,
yes.
All I want you to do is look at my website. It's dirk4school.com, DIRK, the number 4, school.com. If you like that, what I'm saying on my website, share it with your friends. Share it like your favorite Italian restaurant. Send text messages, send emails. Just tell people to go look at me. Just say, I like the guy. I like what he's saying. I think we need him. Things like that. I'm not going to ask you for money. People in big races, they need money. But in politics, there's two things. One, you have a compelling message that resonates. I think I do. And you'll make your own decision when you look at my website. It'll take you like 3 or 4 minutes. The second thing is people got to hear it.
Right.
So that's where the money comes in. But if I can get 10 people to tell 10 people, there's 100. 100 becomes 1,000, 1,000 becomes 10,000. There's a book called The Tipping Point that talks about how ideas go viral. Go viral with me. Look at my website, dirkforschool.com. That's all I'm asking for. Maybe.
Now, is it the number 4 is 4
number
spelled
4,
out?
Number
Okay.
4.
Make that clear.
DIRK 4, number 4, school.com. The other thing, if you want a yard sign, just text me your address. I'll put it up for you.
Well, you'd
That's
have
it.
to give him your phone number to text you.
That's on the website.
Oh, okay. So check his website.
Check my website.
Okay, so I really hope you do well in your race. I know the school unions are going to dump money probably into your opponent. And again, people, I cannot stress this enough. Do not put your ballot in the mailbox. Take it into the county. Take it into the city drop boxes. I wouldn't trust any drop box outside of those areas, or vote early and in person so we can chase those ballots down. It's super important. Dirk, thank you so much for coming on, and I'll see you soon.
It's been a pleasure. I like watching when you interview other people, and it's really an honor to be here myself. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you
you're
very
fun.
much. We're having a good time.
You're super fun. Okay, everybody. We will see you next week, and ballots are hitting the mailbox. So make sure, again, do not vote by mail. You can't trust it. Trust me, I canvassed. 25% of those votes are not getting to the county. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.